Right, thank you so much for staying with us. Time now for that conversation that I have been telling you about since the beginning of this show, reproductive health and hygiene. And my guests, as I told you, okay, are with me, Dr. Claire Kinuthia. She is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Gertrude Mungai, a lifestyle designer on intimacy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Remember, you can call in live here. At some point, we'll be opening our lines for you to call in with your questions or comments on 0768095491. That's 0768095491. All right. I want to start with what I would call breaking the ice, because unfortunately, I think it's unfortunate that we don't have this conversation quite often at this time and age. I mean, it's 2023, but even just having this sit down feels not weird, but not usual again, yeah? I remember when my producer and I were planning for this conversation, and we mentioned vagina in the newsroom, headstand, you know, and people are like, Ati, what is that, you know? Why is that the case?
You should have called it Miss Victoria. See, there's a reason why I gave it a code
That's
name.
true, but still,
Exactly.
that's not its real name. You know, let's call it for what it is, but Miss Victoria sounds pretty good, yeah? Let me start with you, actually. Why is that the case?
Well, I don't know whether to call Kenyans conservative or pretenders, you know, but it's, like you said, it's not something we're used to. You can speak, you can't call the organs the way they, you know, their real names. People are a little bit uncomfortable. So when I use code names, guys, both men and women are more comfortable, and you can have that conversation without, you know, without people feeling like, oh my goodness, it's abusive, or you know, there are people who can't even say the word. You know, they call it all sorts of names, and it has its advantages and disadvantages. You know, for kids, maybe they need to know, because there's somebody who said there's like a girl who was molested for a very long time, and every time the kid goes to school, they say, "Uncle touches my cookie." You know, because the mom said it's not, you know, it's called a cookie. And for a very long time, the teacher never used to understand what this, by the time it was coming out, the girl had gone through enough. So maybe that's a disadvantage. But on national TV, you know, you can't just say, like, you can imagine me in my show, you know. So now it's time to talk about the vagina, and it's time to talk about, well, but when you say Mr. Victor, Miss Victoria, if you add the two of them together.
So which one do you two prefer? Do we use Miss Victoria or
I'm going to stick with clinical
Daktari.
Daktari. And this is where I rope you in, because I'm going to ask the same question I asked Gertrude, because growing up, I don't know if there are people who had the privilege of having such a conversation with their parents. I would assume there are very few, not so many people had a sit down with their moms, with their dads, and had this kind of conversation.
And it's the reason why we have the issue that we have now. As grown-ups, we come off as pretentious or conservative in the sense that we don't want to name things for what they are. It's because we never had that education and those conversations. These are normal body parts. We should be able, it's a part of your anatomy. You can't leave it at home. You can't walk around, you know, selectively. Exactly. So it should not be, if I can say forehead, surely I shouldn't be embarrassed when I say vagina.
That's true.
So it's a gap in the system. We're trying to change that now with comprehensive education around sexuality and sex education. There's pushback again just because people are not familiar, but I think it'll make a big difference if we start to have very open conversations.
Actually, where I come from, we've had that conversation for the longest time. It's only that, again, we don't call it by its name. But I was brought up by my grandmother, and I remember getting my periods, you know, that conversation had already started, because I was a late bloomer myself. By the time I was getting my periods, I mean, I literally, the first month, I took care of myself, you know. By the second month, my grandmother realized, you know, and it was a ceremony, so I was not embarrassed. For the first time, I got my new pair of kanga leso, because before you get hand-me-downs from your auntie, you know, I got my brand new pair, you know, and then there was even special food which was done. I was celebrated, so I was never embarrassed. But I hear it's so different from so many other people.
Very different.
At the cost,
sometimes we're shamed about normal body functions.
Like exactly is.
It's very unfortunate.
True. Okay. So I want us to get right into it, because apart from, you know, our topic today being reproductive health and hygiene, we're narrowing it down to maintaining a healthy vagina, yeah? And of course, this conversation is on the back of that statement by the Ministry of Health, where they advise the public against the use of yoni pearls, which may be referred to as vaginal detox pearls, herbal tampons, cleansing pearls, or vaginal pearls, yeah? So, simple question. How should a normal vagina look like, feel like?
Or smell like.
Or smell like. I was hoping you bring that up. Smell like.
It should smell and look and feel normal for its owner.
What is normal?
There's no such thing as mine looks different from yours and so mine is not normal, because that's where the first challenge comes in. Everybody has a belief system that there's a specific type that is normal. Generally speaking, most women have a comfortable normal. You know what kind of discharge you have. You know the smell to your discharge. You understand that with your menstrual cycle, it'll change quite a bit. So you'll have maybe a whiter, gooier type of discharge during just after your period. And then just before and during ovulation, it becomes thin, watery, very slippery, more like mucus type of discharge. And then after ovulation, it goes back to being very little. It usually will be the same sort of whitish or cloudy color. And then your period starts. Some women get sort of a brownish or a darker red discharge, and then the period starts. And that's completely normal. So you can't sit and say, my normal has to be, you know, and that's the mistake we make, because we tend to have conversations with each other without the context of any information.
Right.
So now I'm comparing directly to someone else instead of finding out what normal, what falls under the blanket of normal. What isn't normal, we can go into those details, because that's how to best explain it rather than trying to define an exact normal.
Right.
If you're having discharge that has a change in the smell from what you're used to during all the different parts of your cycle, if it has changed color significantly, I mean green, gray, dark yellow, you know, really dark brown or clumpy discharge, the texture is different, you have pain associated or itchiness or burning sensation, then you know this is not normal and it's probably time to come see your doctor. The other mistake we make, again, consulting within, under the table.
Right.
And so by the time you come in to see us, you've done everything and anything. And unfortunately, it's no longer the primary issue. A lot of times we're dealing with even more severe issues than what we would have been able to treat if you came immediately. Yeah.
How about the smell?
The smell, again, it's very unique to each and every individual. We are not built to smell like pineapples or strawberries. We're not built, we're
Do you
human.
say unfortunately? Because some people expect, you know, strawberries and pineapples,
And
like
I'm
you're
where
saying.
did that expectation come from?
I don't
Because
know.
you know what your normal is, right? So it's very different for different women. And again, you will know what is your normal. You will become aware of a change, and it's the individual. So a lot of times when women come in and as our patients, we're able to listen to you, and you describe and you say, no, the smell has changed, it's offensive, it's very foul, it smells like, most commonly we hear fishy odor. And you know that that's not normal. And if that's the case, then again, we need to listen to the patient and start the treatment, investigate appropriately and start treatment. But there's no such thing as I'm going to smell like roses, or I mean, it's like
So anybody who's thinking that is daydreaming. They're building castles in the air.
please stop.
Yeah. Okay. In my research, Gertrude, I had you talk about something to do with having a relationship, an intimate relationship with Miss Victoria.
Yes.
I'm offending you, doctor, when I call her that. Okay. Miss,
very hard
with
to
your vagina. I mean, we should be in a
go
position
ahead,
where
go
we
ahead.
can
Yes,
say
it's
it,
at night,
you know,
it's night.
without fear.
Breakfast show.
Right.
Okay.
So talk to us about having that kind of relationship, because Doc here tells us you should be able to know what's your normal, yeah? So how do I, as a woman, establish a relationship with my vagina such that when things are not right, I'm the first one to know and not my partner, not anybody else?
Exactly. And Daktari talked about discharge. Do you know most women, they don't want to know that they have a discharge. So every time I talk to women, they'll tell me, no, I'm fine. I don't have a discharge. I'm like, if you don't have a discharge, then there's a problem. Because every Miss Victoria has a discharge. And I keep telling people we should make discharge as, you know, daily conversation. Hi, how are you? How are your kids? How is your husband? How is your discharge? It should be part of the conversation.
Do you think we're ready for that?
We are not, but it should be. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we will not have been taken for a ride with all these bouquets and all these things which have been banned.
True,
You know? So I normally advise women, like Daktari says, you need to know your normal. You are not going to know that if you're always, if you're staying too far away from your Miss Victoria. So every time before you shower, I'm assuming everybody wears an underwear, smell it. You know, then take your shower, then smell the underwear again. Then you get to know you're normal. And then we keep forgetting we are what we eat. You know, okay, we don't smell like the roses and stuff, but there's some foods we eat, it gives us a stronger smell, and that makes so many women uncomfortable. And some men who are not very well informed, they're just saying, oh, the vagina is supposed to smell like a fish. I'm like, no, it's okay for a fish to smell like a fish, but for Miss Victoria to smell like a fish, that's not normal, okay? But because us, ourselves, we don't know the normal. So if you keep smelling, then you will know when it's off. I can smell an infection miles away.
Yeah.
You know, before even the itchiness starts, I can tell it's a little bit off, okay? And if you're very particular and it bothers you so much, you can use like the pineapple, and it's not the packet, the processed. It's always fresh fruit. You know, warm water and a slice of lemon, just to neutralize, especially some of us love for me, the smellier the food, the tastier. I mean, really, talk about mkunde na matumbo, a combination of the two. So you can imagine. Okay, I love cabbage. It always features.
Yes, I wanted us to get there, cabbage.
Yes. Many people think if you eat cabbage, you become too wet. It's been a myth forever. I don't eat cabbage. I don't want to be too wet. I'm like, no. Okay, cabbage doesn't make you too wet. Otherwise, people will be following me up with a bucket because I'm dripping wet all over the place.
Okay.
You know?
Right.
Oh, it's not that time yet. Okay.
It's not that time yet.
Oh, because
let's wait until 10 more minutes.
They're juicy, you know, I juice it. Cabbage, most of the red cabbage even gives you a stronger smell. And so I would say eat whatever it is you need to eat. You'll take care of the smell. So if it's off because I've eaten shark, I'm a mijikenda, I love my papa, or even the dry fish, you know, I can tell I've eaten this and this off, like, it's what I ate, it will go. Yeah. In a day or two, it's gone.
Right.
I don't have to go see daktari for that.
Yeah, but then again, you started by saying that you assume everybody wears undies, yeah? But there are those who choose to go commando.
Commando people.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying being commando. I'm telling you, I'm thinking I'm going to start preaching that. You know, I'm recovering from surgery, so you can imagine I couldn't wear an underwear. And it was liberating, you know. So even going
Why
back.
are you laughing?
Or maybe too much information.
Why are you laughing? Maybe you could
Going
share.
back to wearing an underwear was
so much. I just absolutely love her.
Okay, so if you don't wear an underwear, you can't smell the underwear. You know, wash your hands. I always say give Miss Victoria the respect she deserves. Nobody eats or touches food before they wash their hands.
Right.
Do the same thing. You know, you don't touch your Miss Victoria without washing hands. Wash your hands and then do a mini swipe, because there's always discharge. A lot, you know, maybe or just a little, but there's always some wetness. Smell. Go shower, wait for a few minutes, smell. And then you get to know these things. I'm not saying put your finger, scoop. No.
Yes.
You know, just around when I say Miss Victoria, to me it's a combination of the vulva and the vagina, the canal. To me, that's Miss Victoria.
Right.
But at the opening, just swipe, smell.
Exactly. And that is what I want us to talk about now, Doc, because she said, go shower. Let's talk about shower. How do you clean the vagina? How do you clean Miss Victoria, yeah? Because a lot of people do, in my research, I got to learn of things that I didn't even know people do, yeah? And there's one woman who I was listening to, and she was saying it's like brushing your throat, you know, because we do not do that. You brush your teeth. You don't go all the way down. So why is it that when we get there, we want to do all kinds of things?
Again, it's misinformation and really not understanding your body. So first of all, we don't clean our vaginas. You clean your vulva. The vagina, which is the internal part of you, the canal like you mentioned, it's internal and it's self-cleaning.
Right.
And it balances itself. It's actually honestly a work of art. This is how you have to believe there's a creator, because we were built in such a way that your body can look after itself and clean itself. And that's what the vagina does. It actually cleans itself thoroughly well, and then the discharge that's deposited on the vulva is what you need now to clean. So if you're in the shower, you have no business inserting anything.
Right.
No fingers, no douching, no nothing. Because internally you're fine. And it's the minute you start to interfere with the internal setup that you start having recurrent infections. You can actually have such bad infections that it leads to subfertility and infertility. And it's the unfortunate thing we see with a lot of our women because of all the misinformation. Somebody told you, oh, I've been using this and it works for me. You see an advert, especially on social media, and it tells you, oh, if you use this, you're going to smell better, you're going to be cleaner. If you've been having recurrent infections, insert this, insert that. And some of them are actually pretty dangerous because there's some that come in like stick form, and they're pretty sharp, so you can actually do some very serious damage.
Yeah.
You can perforate the vagina, perforate the uterus, and we've had extreme cases where people come with intestines hanging out because you've actually damaged yourself to that degree. So it's more dangerous than it is. It's actually not beneficial at all, and it's something we really want to help women understand. Please stop inserting anything. If at all anything, you just need to clean externally. Usually, given that your body does its own thing, as you shower, let the water trickle down. You just need the clean water. You don't actually need to interfere with soaps because especially so those that are very perfumed, which is what women will tend to gravitate to, and those that are antibacterial, they'll change the normal flora of the vagina and they'll cause that acid situation or environment that is natural to change, which then encourages infections. So we tend to advise that unless you're on your period, you really don't need to be cleaning with soap or anything, and even then it should be very mild products, preferably the ones that are made for that area.
And that is what I actually wanted us to talk about, the soap, because I don't know who told, okay, fine, I'll be honest. We were told in campus that it's okay to use, I've exposed myself. It's okay to use a cupanda soap, a bar soap.
Imagine.
I don't know who, I don't know where that narrative came from.
It's strong enough to kill bacteria in clothes. How can it be mild?
Yeah.
You know, I've had that and it doesn't make any sense. Like she says, it's misinformation.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kipande soap and of course Omo is powerful. Inatoa madoa doa yote. You know, and all these perfume. The worst, I think, is the soaps which promise to tighten you.
Yes.
Those are the worst. You know, if a soap it's like me telling me, oh, okay, with your biryanis and the chips you eat, here is a bar soap wash and you lose weight. It's the same thing. Yeah. So most of the soaps which tell you it will lose weight, it will just dry you up.
Yeah.
For married women, it even causes more problems because now you're dealing with a dry Miss Victoria, which is not good for marriage at all. Sorry for a little late.
I understand where you're headed. Yeah. Okay. She mentioned something and reminded me of something that I saw during the day in my research on tightening. Yeah. And Doc, I want us to talk about vaginal rejuvenation. I actually just learned about it. No, the kinds of it, the various kinds of it today. Labiaplasty. My pronunciations may not be correct.
No,
Please
that's
correct me. Yeah? Vaginoplasty, clitoral hood reduction, monsplasty. I mean, do these things actually happen in Kenya, first of all? And why?
They do, and again, it's because of misinformation. If you believe in the back of your mind, you completely strongly believe that you look abnormal because you've set yourself up at a standard that, I don't know, you saw a photo online or something and decided mine looks different, so mine is not normal, then women start to chase fixes, quick fix. And so there are surgical procedures, which in my opinion are another form of FGM because again, you're mutilating the vulva.
Because that's not how that's not how it should be.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very different from tightening though, because now we're talking about external. So it's usually the external appearance that you're trying to fix. And then there are surgical procedures to tighten the vagina as well. So we sort of place stitches usually after childbirth, because some women are very insecure about having what they call a wider vagina after having babies. And again, it's not necessary because you have the ability to do this on your own. We usually encourage women to learn how to do their Kegel exercises. And once you learn how to do those, you actually tone up the muscle.
Talk to us about that.
So Kegel exercises are basically, it's difficult to explain, but let me find an easier one. So as a woman, as you go to pass urine, if you can, while you're passing urine, start and stop. Keep starting, release, and then hold. And then release again, and then hold. After a while, you'll be able to identify the muscles that I'm talking about, because those are the ones, because you have to tighten your pelvis, the pelvic floor, in order for you to stop the urine from coming out. That's the best way to train yourself to learn which muscles we're talking about. And once you've identified the muscles, it's sort of the same way we teach children how to hold pee until the right time. Now you're just learning how to isolate the pelvic muscles and the muscles within the vagina. And so we encourage you to do this severally during the day. You can be doing them sitting like this, and nobody will know. It's very discreet. You're the only only person who knows. You're sitting there going, and I've done my 10, and we continue.
Yeah.
And those are very powerful exercises for all women in general, especially if you're hypersensitive about tightness, because again, like you said, in marriages, people have these belief systems that you're supposed to feel a certain way. And so Kegel exercise is actually pretty powerful, even after childbirth. After your doctor gives you the go-ahead, they all clear because we've made sure you've recovered fully, then you start doing your Kegels and you actually recover. You bounce back. It's the shortcuts that now we're starting to see more and more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I, about the vaginoplasty, the cosmetic surgery for the Miss Victoria, and most of the time it's named after the part you're going to correct. I actually think some of them are really cute. Let me tell you something. Confidence is sexier than any body part. And let's just agree, there's some lips which don't look very good. So to me, is it that time?
All right, I'm looking at my watch. I think we have 1 minute.
1 minute?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. He's already going to, let's talk about this. It's not every day we get to talk about this, and if you meet these women, by the time
Okay, my director tells me we can talk.
Oh,
we can now talk.
oh my God.
She needed
I know.
Yeah. It's like have a breast reduction. Some people do it because they're too heavy and it hurts their back. People have different reasons to go for this surgery. So even I wanted to do the same,
Tell us
2015,
more.
I turned 40, get my last baby. Then that was a gift for me. Okay, of course I was going to make the husband pay, but story for another day.
Right.
It's just something I wanted to experience. And there was one particular way I wanted the little labias to look, because there's nothing I could do about the bigger lips, So Dr. says it's part of female mutilation. I would have mutilated, but I was doing it for the right reasons, to look good, So by the time I'm doing a selfie,
A selfie?
for myself. I wasn't doing this for anybody else. What I'm saying is some of those surgeries, people...
A selfie, is that part of being intimate with
myself?
I'm getting... You should love you anyway.
You should love you. But the lips, I always tell people, these lips are exactly the same as those lips. And with a bit of aging, with a bit of weight, with a bit of, they kind of sag, some of them. I know that because I'm turning 50 next year. And trust me, things are not the same.
Yes.
I've made peace with it. And I'm thinking, well, I'm still exercising and things are looking a little bit good. But there are some, if you can afford it and do a bit of touch up here and there, as long as you don't touch on the inside. I say, girl, go ahead.
Doc, feels react to that. Please
It's
do.
the same. People have Botox, and why do you want to look good on this face and not want to look good?
So, like she said, it's definitely a body image and body confidence thing.
Right.
Most of us will disagree in that some people will hear it as, yours is not normal, go and fix it. You've been given the go-ahead. What she said was powerful. If you yourself feel that this is not, because again, there are some labia that are very, very long, and so they get tangled in your clothing. It's difficult, it's actually painful. Some of those...
Just long and loose.
Exactly,
and flabby.
yeah. So in that scenario...
You know why I'm saying this, eh?
If it's affecting quality of life, again, if it's your
Go
own
for
personal
it.
decision and it's
If
informed,
you're doing it for you.
it's an informed decision.
Yeah.
Sit down with your doctor and have that conversation, because it's a very different thing to do it for you, rather than now the abuse side comes because now a partner looks at you and says,
Oh, no.
and so
They
now
don't
you're
get
forced to
decide.
go
They
and
don't get to decide.
there are those
I hear
little
you.
issues.
I hear you.
And you mentioned partner. I want us to talk about that. No, it's not unfortunate. This is her say. It's a women's show. But we were hoping to have one gentleman with us today so that we can hear his side of the story. Unfortunately, he didn't respond to our calls or texts, which is fine. It's okay. But I want to know from you, Gertrude, because in your line of duty, I assume you encounter many women who particularly want to go for that, those kind of cosmetic surgeries, tighten the vagina and stuff like that. Why do they do it? Apart from for me, as the woman, what other reasons do they give?
Sometimes they do it because their men said something, it turned them off, or it made them feel unattractive, or it killed their self-esteem. Unfortunately, I always tell people it's the wrong reason. Don't do it for another person, because there's a very high chance that you may not be able to reverse it, especially if this person is not a husband. What happens then? Every time you meet another guy, you alter, you change, you cut, you pull, you remove for somebody else. Do it for you, you know. And even for that, there's only so much you can do. I'm okay with just altering, you know, like for me, I even had a shape. It had to look like a rose petal, you know. I mean, I was going to go all out.
Wow.
Okay. But for tightening, I don't believe you should go for surgery for tightening because I've talked to a few women who've done it and it's never the same. Yes, you are tight, but you don't have the flexibility. You understand what I'm saying? And then haiongezi utamu. You know, I wanted to say that in Swahili because
it's a little home.
Yes, home. Haiongezi utamu, especially for you, maybe for him, but this is about you. Right. So for me, when it comes to tightening, you have to do the job. You have to do the exercises. You know, you can use the vaginal gyms. You know, and there's some which actually are very fancy. They come with a handset. They have a program, you know, after childbirth, you know, activating the G-spot. There are some which have some with probes, electromagnetic bars, and they can do that. Or you can just use a manual ball, or you actually still have to do the Kegel exercises. And Daktari has shown us the best way to identify the muscle. So many times I train women. The first week we learn how to identify the muscle. Right. The second week we learn how to confirm the muscle. And the third week engage the muscle. After that you're good. Because sometimes women come to me and they tell me, oh, by the way, it's not working. I'm like, okay, how do you do the exercise? The fact that they think they can show me and then they get up and then they squeeze their butt muscle. I'm like, chick, that has got nothing to do with your Miss Victoria. So the P is the best. But then people keep telling them the stories nakwambia gumzo mtaani. People say like, oh, mwanamke akojoi, you know, you're supposed to hold. I'm like, no, when it's time to pee, please pee. It doesn't matter what sounds it makes. And if you're in the loo, that's the right place to do it, you know. So instead of just peeing, they keep holding so they can pee kidogo, and that's not healthy for Miss Victoria. Right. So there's time to do the exercises and there's time to relax and just enjoy your Mombasa Raha first class. And of course with the multiple orgasm, Daktari here can tell us an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. They said it's an apple. They lied. They lied.
I was told it's an apple. Okay, listen. So because we don't have a man on the panel, we asked some of you, especially men, what you know about vaginal health. You know, what advice you would give to women in terms of maintaining their...
Men?
Yes, we did. We needed to hear from them, So let's listen to what some of you had to say. Nick?
It is quite unfortunate that most people don't like talking about those things that do affect us, that do affect our daughters, that do affect our mothers, that do affect our sisters, and those that do affect our wives. It's very unfortunate. And I feel it's a high time that they start, even in churches, to talk about it.
Kuoga. Watu wengi ile kuoga wanahakikisha wakioga kuna ile kuoga, kuna ile nasikia unaosha na avocado hapana. Make sure umeiosha vizuri kulingana na vile daktari anakuagiza kuiosha.
Kwa wasichana tunapatanga kuna complications nyingi, especially the yeast infections, zenye nyingi zinaletwa kutumia maybe the public toilets, zenye unaenda zingine ziko so messed up. Na sasa sababu ya ile rushing umekazwa nini, unaenda una splash tu. So inakusplashia and then unapata some infections. Alafu pia unapatanga kuna maybe hizi tissues zenye tunatumia, there are different types of tissues. So unaweza kaenda upate like kuna yenye sio suitable na wewe.
Wakilala kuwa free so that ile hewa iko ndani yako inatoka kwa sababu mchana mzima umeshinda umefungia pale.
Those are some of the topics that should be introduced in our schools curriculum.
There, Doc, let me get that reaction. I saw you. But I'm impressed, actually. Most of the men actually know these things. It's not like they don't. There's that one who told us not to use avocados to clean
I didn't know people use avocado. This is new to me.
Me too. I've
heard of lemon, salt,
not avocado.
Marinating Miss Victoria like they're going to do jamachoma. Avocado? How do you do the whole... Me, I'm telling you, people misuse fruits and vegetables.
I know.
Story for another day.
Yeah. Let's get a reaction to that.
It's actually very nice to see so many men who are more informed, and they're actually encouraging women to also learn about their bodies. I like especially the one who said this is something that should be introduced from school time, because that's the time we are learning about everything in the world. Where are we not learning about our bodies? And if we started to teach our children from an early stage, we're teaching them the right words at home. Mom and dad sit us down as comfortably as they can. I mean, it's an awkward conversation to have, but it's only awkward because we didn't have the education ourselves.
Sure.
So you have to teach yourself as the parent and then teach your children. And then we pick it up in schools and we pick it up in other institutions that can support the parents in teaching. So that, like you said, we need to have the right words for the right things. You start to teach your child, this is normal body parts, then you teach them body autonomy. You have the right to say who can touch and who should not touch, and what is right touch and what is wrong touch, and what to do if these things did happen, so that they know how to report. Because you had mentioned children who are abused or molested, who fail to have the right words to express what happened to them. And unfortunately, the way the law sits, the person cannot be charged if the child cannot express clearly what happened to them. So it's actually destructive to have nicknames, because if the child is using nicknames, it cannot be, it's considered improvable as assault or as defilement, which is very unfortunate. So we have a lot of perpetrators who get away with really bad abuse just because of that loophole, because you are too shy to teach your children the parts as they're supposed to be said. So I did really enjoy seeing most of those encouraging us to learn what our normal is, learn how to speak about it, be confident. It's a normal part. Honestly, if you have an earache, you come in and talk about it. So why is any other part of your body something to be ashamed of, right?
Yeah. Gertrude, your reaction to it, because there's one lady there who talked about, I'm going to use her words, peeing, you know, and the infections that ladies get from especially public toilets. We've seen pictures of people who go and spread tissue all over just to avoid the infections. Let's talk about that.
To me, that it's nothing. And I'm not so concerned about a silly infection which you can get rid of. I am very concerned about the kind of things people put inside. You know, there was something called, and this was not featured in the, I don't think it's even one of the things that was banned, and it should be part of it. It's called shabu. Shabu came from the coast, you know. There, even some places they said it jiwe ya mama. So they take a kaholka crystal, you know, and they insert it. You know, I'm talking about that kind of injury, you know. And I don't know, some sort of chalk, some sort of powder, you know. There was a lady who came to me because she was preparing for her husband, you know. Not only did she put lemon and salt, trying to get rid, somebody told her, oh, but if you put lemon and salt, it will not smell. You know, so you know, like though you put lemon and salt in fish, it doesn't have two fish smell. Imagine somebody decided that Victoria needed that, you know. And there's one who had put that powder. Then it was itchy, so she kept scratching. You know, she couldn't even walk. Those are the major concerns. Peeing, you know, just infection is the same as when they touch without cleaning. Those are not major things. But what people insert with this misinformation, like what has been banned, to me, that's the major concern. And this came, I remember at the beginning, these things have been here for close to 10 years because I've been monitoring. When they came, there were these clips of somebody removing it, pulling it from the Miss Victoria, and it comes out with all this gooey, dirty. You know, there's a lady who told me, I need that. They thought I sold them. I need that because I've never done so. I can imagine mine is been clogged, so there's all this dirt in my womb, and all. I had to explain, you know. So that was wrong. Everybody thought, if I don't clean, you can imagine this lady does it every month, and this is the kind of crap she removes. So you can imagine if I've never done it.
Who's never done it?
Exactly. And for me, that is what causes it. You put it in here. I don't know which ones you have seen. There are some I saw. They have, you know, gunia, the old gunia.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, viazi,
I've seen that,
you know, two little balls, which, and the fabric is so rough. Even a tampon is so soft. Anything which is made for this particular area is soft. So whatever it is these guys have been doing, I can't believe. For once, I am so glad these things have been banned, officially banned in the country.
Right. And
just to clarify, it's a myth that you can get infections from toilets. It's a complete myth. Because usually, and especially so those that are cleaned regularly, they tend to be pretty hygienic. It's just about making sure you don't get splashed on. So you just put some tissue in and then use the toilet. But generally speaking, you're not going to get STIs, you're not going to get, especially people talk about herpes, you talk about getting UTIs and the likes from public toilets. That's actually a myth.
Wow.
Because a lot of these microorganisms cannot survive in the environment for that long, for it to wait for the next person to come and use the bathroom. So it's just about how you, especially, you will more likely get an infection from your dirty hands when you go to use that public toilet than from the toilet itself. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Dr. you're saying no more bending and shaking after.
In fact, we have a
can
lot
count
of
them.
issues with squatting over a toilet because
Imagine.
pelvic
Tell me
floor,
about
the
it.
pelvic floor doesn't like that position, and a lot of women later in life have their uterus prolapse or come down because you've been straining, because it's not a natural position. You actually have to strain to get the pee to come out. So you're not supposed to be hovering.
Where are my shorts? I'm betraying myself.
I think Dr. is going to ban some of the Basaraha position. Did you just...
No, that's different. That's very different. I'm talking about
No, on a
the
serious
toilet.
note, you-
Actually,
you should not do that.
You're not supposed to have it because as you're releasing and relaxing the muscles, they actually become very lax. Over time, it's very detrimental because you end up losing the ability to keep, because your uterus is not fixed somewhere. It's held up because of all the pelvic floor muscles, and it forms a nice girdle underneath to support it. So if you're constantly now pushing against the force that's required for you to hover on the loo, you cause more damage over time.
Same as weights in squats? They're lifting weights in squatting.
Now that's another myth.
It is?
That's another myth. Mostly because, again, especially if you're healthy, you're normal, you don't have issues, and you do your regular Kegels, the fact that you're using your abdominal muscles and your back, lats, all of that, will be counteracted by the pelvic floor. And so the pressure is balanced out. So it's not necessarily true, but technique is key because you can injure many things because you're doing the wrong thing in the gym.
Right, and guys, remember you can call in live with your questions or comments, 0768095491. That's 0768095491. So many questions. I hope we get time to ask some of them, but yes, again, you can call in live 0768095491. That number there on your screen, lower, is it left or right? There. You can call in live, yeah? Okay, so one of the people who spoke to Doc also talked about tissue and the kind of tissue paper that women use, yeah? Because I gathered we ought to use lint-free tissue paper. Am I right? Am I misleading my people?
Okay, because it's very classist to tell people they have to have a certain quality of tissue, because again, when the kind of country where, especially with economic times, I'm not going to sit here and say your tissue should be 3-ply and then the cost is astronomical. It's unfair. It's more technique. You don't need to scrape, because you have no business scraping. You just need to pick a few pieces, tap, dry, drop.
Part dry.
End.
Delicate.
So if you were doing the technique properly, then the type of tissue or the quality doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And of course, the usual wiping from
Front
to back.
yeah,
Always has to be front.
Front.
not the other way around.
And these are easy techniques you can teach our little girls.
Sure.
I tell every lady with a daughter, you start front, back, and throw. Not front,
Don't
back,
come
front,
back.
back,
Yeah.
and throw.
Yeah. Okay, looks like you were waiting for me to remind you because we have Stanley from Kawangware. Stanley, good evening. Thank you so much for calling. What's your question or comment?
I wanted to ask something.
Yes.
I don't know if is it normal for a wife not to be in the mood? I don't know how to put it, but is it normal for a woman or your wife not to be in the mood always and every, always and always and always? That's
Okay, you
what
need
I
to be
want
clear. This is in the mood for what?
Yeah, is it right for a wife?
Is it in the mood for intercourse?
Yeah.
Great. Asante, Stanley.
Not in the mood always.
All right, who wants to take that?
I think we'll take it in turns, I think. So let's get to
There's the medical part.
the
And,
medical side, yeah.
not all the time, every time. Can I say normal, really? There's so many reasons.
Yeah.
And I want to take the ladies' side. Sometimes the women are just not turned on.
Yeah.
Or there's nothing in it for them. It's just like I lie there, you do a chura on me, then before I realize whatever it is, you want me to demonstrate chura?
Hey, Gertrude. Some other time, not today.
There's no foreplay. Umechapa Miss Victoria. You know, you're putting fingers down. Sometimes wanawake nataka kubembelezwa na kushikwa vizuri. Do you know, if this body, even if you're not in the mood, and it's touched the right way, we arise and we surpass. If it's touched the right way. So give it time. And it's not the 2 minutes. In 5 minutes, you've done foreplay, you've done a penetration, you are deep asleep. 20 minutes. You know this thing people say, oh, mwanamke ni jiko ya makaa, lazima maybe there's some truth in it. Na wanaume ni gas, umewasha imewaka. So you need to take time, but that has to go way back. You know, it has to go way back, even from the way you're asking for it. And the last time she said, no, how did you react? Did you go kicking cats, you know, and just screaming and sulky? And there's a lot of things. So maybe arudi kubembeleza. And ladies, really, why are we testing? You know, the more you become mean, you know, you don't give this guy Mombasa raha. Because what I know is women hold sex, they hold back, you know. She doesn't want to have sex with the husband. She doesn't want to go to Mombasa raha. And then she doesn't want to go to Mombasa raha with the husband. And the husband holds back emotionally. So you can imagine she's emotionally starved. He's sexually starved. So a major disconnect, and it keeps going on and on and on. So I say sometimes they hold back, they don't have a very good reason, or they have a good reason. So communication.
Yeah. Communication is a big thing. There's also, like what you've said, there's a big difference between men and women. I like your...
Okay, Doc, sorry, I have to cut you short because we have, is it Esther? Esther from Lolongo. Esther, good evening. Thanks for calling. What's your question or comment?
Question yangu ilikuwa ni kuna hii time ukiwa maybe kwa lab mwanaume utendi kukupakia mate, hiyo kweli inakuwa ni mwili ama?
Okay, did we get that?
Yes, S and I are going to no more mate, no more mate. Come on, guys. I said this 1,001 times. See, daktari, hii mambo ya mate. Today, I'm happy. I have a lady gynecologist.
Can help clarify.
Oh, gosh.
So just to complete, let me complete the previous one, and then we move on.
Sure.
For the most part, women and men are very different. I like the example you've given, but the one I give in clinic especially is explaining that men are more like a light switch and women are an oven. You turn her on and it takes time to heat up. So you actually have to have a heating up period before you put in what you're cooking. And so you have to keep that in mind, especially as a partner, so that you ask yourself, what does she need? What does she like? Women are also very emotional. So something that you do could interfere with, that has nothing to do with the bedroom, can interfere with her interest or her arousal. Because if I have to look after the children and I have to run around and do all the chores and the errands, and you sit there and you just chastise me and you keep telling me I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm doing it badly, arousal, interest in you, where is that going to come from? And so you start to find that she pulls away, and it's not intentional and it's not even physical. It's a psychological approach. So the more understanding you are, the more helpful you are, the more you reach out and you try to understand, what does she need? How am I serving as a partner as well? You'll find that the response tends to actually improve quite a bit. And then it gets to a point sometimes husbands come in and they're like, hey, okay.
But
that's no longer an issue.
But I think some women overdo it. You know, some women overdo it and they can be not in the mood like forever.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem, how is he supposed to know?
True.
You know,
Again,
to
communication.
Him. Because life is too short. You're married. I'm not telling you to do this to the next door neighbor. You're married.
Right, Gertrude.
Yeah.
We have Brian. I'm surprised it's the men who are calling, most of them, yeah? Brian from Kawangware. Good evening, Brian. Thanks for calling. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say. Hello? We have Brian.
Yes, do this, Brian. Just lower the volume of your television set so that we're able to hear you, as of now we can't hear you clearly.
What I wanted to changia is this one. Is it which oil gun is smart, whereby someone can use, because mmesema mate ni mbaya, kutumia mate ni mbaya. Alafu I have another question to ask teacher Gertrude there.
Ni wasichana wote ambayo in case ukiwa Mombasa Raha ni wote hawananga maji ama ni sisi hatutumii mbinu mzuri ya kufanya wako hivyo? Because I have experienced this a lot. Unapata na mtu alafu you try your best but it doesn't work, so alafu it end up anasema unamuumiza. So unaweza nisaidia je hapo?
Haya basi, Gertrude,
Sikusikia yote, nilisikia tumesema mate.
Yes, ni mbaya.
Mate ni mbaya.
Alafu kasema sijui ni wasichana wote hawana ametumia maji, yeah? Ama ni yeye ambaye
Brian, kwanza hebu tafuta bibi wewe. Wasichana wangapi hao? I knew you knew I was going to say that. Unaona, ungekuwa na mmoja shida, tungekuelezea kuhusu mmoja. Sasa nakuelezea kuhusu wangapi? Watano. Dude. Anywho. Okay, yeah, I think it's dryness, you know, and if the women tense up, the natural lubricant is not going to come. And so many people think mate is natural. And I've had so many arguments, especially with men. They do not want their wives to use lubrication, which is meant for that particular area.
Yeah.
You know, they think, no, these are things which have been made in the lab. It's not natural. It has, I don't know what chemicals. I'm just going to use mate. Mate is natural for the mouth, not for Miss Victoria. So most of the time women get infections from using mate. So Brian, mate, tumia lubricant na ziko zile zimetengenezwa kwa madhumuni ya kuenda Mombasa Raha. Na ziko hapa Kenya. We even have our own Kenyan brand.
Okay, sawa. Aramis?
No. It's a no. Oh, I can't believe it.
Sawa, you've answered. Well, your short speech. But it's a good question though.
No, it's a petroleum jelly product. Hiyo ni ya ng'ombe. You know, it's for the cow.
Imechorwa ng'ombe.
Yes, it's the cow.
Questions here on WhatsApp. I'll ask two at a go. They're touching on menses. So Kathambi here is asking what brings about boils during Nick?
Boils?
Okay, Sam from Kandara. Let's take that first. Sam, hello. Thanks for calling. What's your question or comment?
Mi naweza comment hivi kwa hii discussion. Hawa wasichana wetu wa mama wetu waambiwe hivi. Yani kiongea na naume na mimi. Hizo kupaka hizo vitu sijui zinanuka aje ama aje, hizo hata huwa hatutambui. Tunapenda tu hiyo sample venye tu iko. So wasijistress sana. As long iko safi.
Sawa. Safi. Thank you, Sam.
Wanapaka vitu.
Hi, so we have a question here from Embu Kathambi. She's asking what brings about boils during menstruation days. And then there's another one here who's asking which local diet is best for a lady on menses. Doc, you want to take that?
I can take the boils question. There is something that we refer to as pubic acne. So just the same way you get acne on your face, you can have acne lesions on the vulva. And it's a common issue, and if it's a problem that you're having and it's recurring, usually you know that it's pubic acne and not an infection because it's cyclical. Like she said, it only appears during the time of your period. They can form quite painful pimples that then become boils that have a head and you have to squeeze. So it's important that if that is a real issue for you, go ahead and see your doctor so that we can help you address it.
Right. We also have another question here. She's asking, hi, I would like to ask the doc what causes bad smell and thick discharge, sometimes brown or white. There's another one. Is it normal when having intercourse, then you clean the vagina and it feels itchy at the lower part? That's what she's asking.
After or before?
After. No, after. This is after. This is after.
Come again?
Is it, okay, the way she puts it, is it normal? Let me just ask it the way she puts it, yeah? Is it normal mtu aki have sex, then you clean the vagina and feel the itching at the lower part? That's how she puts it. So I'm assuming this is after sex, cleaning, and then that itchy feeling.
She needs to explain cleaning because it could be what she's using to clean.
Yeah.
I'd expect there could be a change in sensation because of friction after sex, which is pretty normal. Again, if you're cleaning appropriately, and usually it's just, again, clean water, go and pee as soon as possible so that we clear out the urethra, because as women, everything is really close to each other. So you go and empty your bladder, and then you clean, like we keep saying, front to back, and you clean with clean water. If you have a cloth, nowadays we even have water wipes, so that it makes your life a bit easier. But generally speaking, there shouldn't be itchiness, and if you have itchiness, again, come in and see your doctor.
Okay.
It's the same, the cracks at the end.
Yeah.
And if she cleans with soap, it will be a bit sensitive. It will be itchy. So room temperature water is the best.
The one that came before that,
Yeah, there was a question we didn't answer.
abnormal discharge.
Oh, yes, yes.
She asked what causes it. It's difficult for us to summarize and say, but usually it is either bacterial or fungal, what you hear being called bacterial vaginosis, and yeast infection or candidiasis, and some other types of infections, because we also have protozoal infections, we have STIs, sexually transmitted infections. So it sounds like, you know, the shortcut that we take, you want to ask or consult instead of coming in for us to examine. If you're having what you consider to be abnormal discharge, please go in and have your doctor take a look, take samples, we have a clear diagnosis, and then you're put on the right treatment.
Gertrude?
For the itchiness, I don't think there's anything else to add. She answered it because it's a medical. And many times when they come to me and I can feel I'm not so sure, and it's not a simple thrush or yeast, I actually send them. I work with a number of doctors. Yeah.
Someone here is also asking why her periods are so painful of late. It's a general question, but she wants to know.
Again, she's asking a consulting question. Until we examine her, take a proper history, and we're able to run the appropriate tests, there are so many causes of painful periods, such as fibroids, endometriosis. You can have even the contraceptive that you're using affect you. So it's a conversation to have with your doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are out of time, but Nick, can we play that clip on vaginal steaming, then get closing remarks on that? Is it
This is
possible?
hot water. You just have to make sure that it is hot enough to be able to mix well with the herbs. Then I place my herbs in there. So these herbs are quite a number. I have like Then 50 of them, but the key ingredients ones are rose petal, we have rosemary, we have mugwort, then we have motherwort. Yeah, those are the key ingredients. Yeah. So what they do, depending on why you are doing the yoni steam, it helps with infertility issues. It helps with irregular menses. It's also, people do it for maintenance. You can see that is in quote for maintenance. People, there are those that say that it helps with tightening their vajayjay. Yeah. So from there, I just place it on the love seat. Yeah. Then the client will change, put on the robe, sit there with their legs wide open, and enjoy the steam.
No, that has since been banned, yeah? I mean, not that exactly, but the whole yoni pulse and everything. So being sensitive, we had to ask her to do it to herself, because she does it before, and she's done it herself before rather, and not a client, yeah? So
the reason I am doing this is because I've had irregular periods, and I can quite say I have seen change. My flow has been quite light, since the beginning. And also I can say I used to, take long, like up to, I would go for like 2-3 months before I would see my menses. But now I can say I have been getting them every month.
As we wrap up, let's get a reaction to that, because she says it treats infertility, irregular periods and all that.
None of the things she said it treats. I'm not a doctor, and I can tell you none of them. And sometimes I give, before Dr. says, I give people very simple explanation, because everybody says hot water for the vagina and all that. Take nice glass saucers. Put 3 pieces of meat. One pour very hot water, another one room temperature, and another one extra cold water. See, observe to the raw pieces of meat what happens. The one you pour very hot water, first of all, it turns color, and then it's, and the one you leave room temperature, no change. The one you do cold water, it crystals and curdles. So which, Miss Victoria, do you want from these 3?
How about for women after giving birth? Because that's
different.
A lot.
You have a wound or you have a cut, it's sore, and then with the salty water, and it doesn't even heal or tighten you. The salty water just helps you from getting an infection, so the body heals naturally. You know, so if you're Miss Victoria, if you've not given birth, just a normal kawaida Miss Victoria, you have no business sitting on hot, salty water bath.
Doc, your comments on that and everything else in general, yoni pearls, yoni candies, yoni balls, yoni everything.
Yoni balls is different. That could be, because you know yoni
eggs. Do we have yoni eggs?
Okay,
Eggs and balls, yeah.
They're the same.
Those are the key
for the exercising, that's different. Because yoni means vagina,
So
right?
let's talk about the pearls and the candies.
Yes.
Yeah? And anything else there could be.
Okay. The first thing about vaginal steaming, it's all a myth, all of it. Because there's no way anything steam related with herbs and spices, because that's what that sounded like, is going to actually go into the vagina. The first thing is to understand your anatomy. The vagina, we have a misconception that it's sitting there as a canal and it's wide open.
Yeah.
Your natural anatomy is that the anterior wall and the posterior wall are against each other, and so it's actually sealed. So boiling yourself from outside doesn't mean anything much will actually go inside. And it's almost, in fact, it's impossible that you're going to treat your uterus and infertility and issues to do with your pelvis through the vagina, because the cervix itself is sealed tight. That's how it keeps your uterus healthy. And so anything that's going in, even for us when we're doing procedures, we actually have to open the cervix up a bit for us to be able to access the uterus. So it's a complete rumor.
We're completely out of time, yeah? So I need to get your closing remarks, but there are 3 questions here. I want you to tie them in your remarks here, the 2 of you. So one asking, okay, let me just ask this other one. Can they explain genital warts? Yeah. And then what causes abdominal pain after sex? So let's have that as part of your closing remarks.
Okay, I'm leaving that to that part. What causes
abdominal pain after sex?
After sex,
yes.
Sometimes it's not, you're not relaxed and the vagina is not ready for penetration. Because what people don't realize is women get erections, but it's internal. It's called vaginal tenting. When you're not fully aroused, your vagina is like, you know, a collapsed balloon. But after the foreplay, the vagina tenses, the vulva contracts, the uterus ascends, and the vagina elongates, and you become wetter, you become warmer, you know, so no matter how big Mr. Victor is, you're not gonna have pain. But if it's flesh on flesh on flesh and then you have sex, then you will get some pain.
Okay, Dr. Claire?
And even with the pain, if you're having persistent pain, even after you've done everything correctly, then that's a time to come and see your doctor as well, because there are issues that can be present, not just outside of infections as well, that can give you pain after sex. Right. When it comes to yoni pearls and all sorts of things that we're inserting, just go home with this take-home message. Stop inserting foreign objects into your vagina. Right. Stop cleaning inside your vagina. That should just be the general rule. If you have any questions, if you have any, you've had something and you're not too sure, ask a medical practitioner. Yes. Please lean on that rather than leaning on the internet or other stories that you'll hear about. Sure. For warts is a HPV infection, human papilloma virus, and if you do have genital warts, again, you need to make an appointment and see your doctor, because there is treatment. It's not something to be embarrassed about. Just come in and let's sort that out.
Great place to end it. Thank you so much. Dr. Claire Kinodhia, consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, and of course Gertrude Mungai, lifestyle designer on sex and intimacy.